Autobots, transform!
Rumble, Ravage, prepare for battle. Operation Warfare, eject, eject.
What is up, Transformers family? Welcome back to another episode of George Reviews, but not just another episode of George Reviews. I am getting back on my 1984 Transformers Hasbro countdown that I've been counting down numerically. And I finished the Autobots. I went from 1 to number 18, ending on the Autobots with number 18, Optimus Prime. And this right here is the first of the Decepticons. They represent a 2-pack at the number 19 slot. It is Rumble and Ravage. And the first thing I'm going to do is address the whole Rumble versus Frenzy cartoon era thing. A lot of people like keeping this debate alive just to troll the issue. And some people take it real serious as to which one was Rumble and which one was Frenzy. Because we had two identical micro cassettes that transformed into two identical robots. Well, with a color pattern difference. The first one we saw in a cartoon in 1984 was the blue one. A lot of people say blue and purple, but it's light blue and dark blue. And this was known to most people as Rumble. But the packaging for the figure, and I was always a more comic book and bio packaging type guy. The packaging for the figure, and this one is pretty much worn away, but we have the bio and the text spec on the back, and we're going to get into this a little bit more. But it tells you that this is Rumble. Now, the cartoon was famous for making mistakes, and the one that people choose to look the other way on is the fact that they mistakenly full-time made Rumble blue. So from this review and the rest of my reviews, everyone, this is Rumble. But even more than that, it's Rumble because this is the very first Decepticon pack I ever got. When I went to the stores trying to find the Decepticons, I could never find them. And then one day I walk in, I see these cassettes, and these two were my very first childhood Decepticon. Not these two per se, I got these as an adult collector. But as a kid, the very first Decepticons I picked up was the 2-pack with Rumble and Ravage. So anytime you ask me, I'm going to tell you that this is Rumble. It's what I had as a kid. I identified this guy as Rumble. So from now on, this is going to be Rumble in this review. But I like to do a prehistory rewind in my reviews. So before I start talking about what Hasbro gave us, I'm going to rewind and tell you that Hasbro imported these figures from a company called Takara, a Japan-based toy company manufacturer. And in the Takara line, they were part of what was called a Micro Change line. All right, because this is my first Decepticon review, I want to put some extra pageantry into this and break this down as far as I can. So when we go back to Takara, the company that Hasbro got all these toys from. When I say all these toys, I mean these toys over here and these toys over here. Now I have them set to different size because I want to make a point. The pre-existing toy line that Hasbro picked up was multiple toy lines. You had the Diaclone, Car Robot, and Jet Robot line, in which the Autobots that we know now, the Decepticons that we know now, weren't enemies. They were part of one military team, and they had these little pilots that would pilot their vehicles. Just like right here in the cockpit of the toy that went on to be Thundercracker, you can see a guy right there piloting Hound. And in the background, I have a Diaclone Dinobot as well, and it's because the Dinobots were part of this line, or the toys that became the Dinobots were part of this line, and they actually had cockpits as well. If I open up this, in this little compartment right here, this is where your driver would go into this figure, and these toys actually fought the Warriors. If I'm not butchering that name, I don't speak Japanese very well. And they were the toys that went on to become the Insecticons. And not just the Insecticons, but I'm going to focus on these right now. And all the Insecticons had a little cockpit too, to accommodate, I'll transform it a little bit, I think. A cockpit to accommodate a little tiny micro figure, which are known as Diaclone pilots. Right here on the figure that went to become Kickback, and Shrapnel has a little spot right there. All these figures could house the little minifigures, and they fought against each other. The Warriors were invading Insecticon-like creatures that came to Earth to feed, and these guys continue to be. But not just that, this line had, which I don't have, giant play sets, mechanized play sets, electronically battery operated play sets, and it was just a very grand toy line. But Hasbro pulled the core out of it, and this is what we got as Transformers. Switching from the car robot and jet robot line was the Micro Change line, and in the Micro Change line were household items that transform to one-to-one scale figures, like toy that went on to become Soundwave, a mini cassette recorder, and once he transformed into a full figure, he was only this big. So in their continuity, a human could grab Soundwave and pick them up just like this. I'm knocking figures everywhere. And it was based off household items like a camera, the camera that went on to be reflector, the microscope that went on to become Perceptor. They didn't transform and get any bigger than this. Blaster, so on. And the toy that became Megatron handgun. Items in your home that would get up and run across the dresser at one-to-one scale. So this is what you got from the Micro Change line. And then guys like Bumblebee, that was based on penny racers. It was nothing but a toy that got up and walked across the dresser. So this is your difference between your Micro Change and your car robot, jet robot line. Hasbro took them and fused them together, and this is where we get a lot of scaling issues. Well, why this figure isn't as big as this figure, other than common sense. Like they're toys. If you want to make a realistic jet to match up with a car and then match up in robot size, since they don't mass convert in real life, you're going to have scaling issues. And this is where a lot of the other scaling issues come from. So if you didn't know the prehistory, now you know. All right, fast forwarding to the future past or past present of 1984. Did I say that? Damn quantum mechanics. Anyway, fast forwarding to 1984 from the 70s, early 80s of Takara. They kept these figures as companion pieces for Soundwave. That only makes sense because he was a micro cassette recorder, and these guys transformed into micro cassettes as their disguise. So, focusing on Rumble and Ravage at number 19, we're going to go straight to Hasbro's file card, and let's take a look at what Hasbro intended us for fantasy and play with these figures. Up first is Decepticon Ravage. Function: Saboteur. Today's Autobots are tomorrow's scrap metal. Ravage operates best alone. A creature of the night, craftiest of all Decepticons, adept at devising deadly new strategies. Remains aloof from others, but his deeds command their respect. Can virtually escape detection. Emits electromagnetic emission shield. Has a soundless walk. Disappears in subdued light or shadow. Carries two powerful heat-seeking missiles. Light sensitive, can be blinded. So that is the bio for Ravage. And over here, let me get a decoder real quick. All right, now, obviously, you don't need a decoder to read these because the minifigures were not packaged with a decoder. They came with like the larger figures. But for the sake of nostalgia, I'm going to use a decoder. Okay, right here it says Ravage's strength is a 5. His intelligence is a 8. His speed is a 5. His endurance is a 6. His rank is a 7. His courage is a 4. His firepower is a 7. And his skill is a 10. Some pretty impressive numbers for a little bitty Ravage that I never knew. He's actually ranked pretty high. Okay, moving on to Rumble. Rumble, function, demolitions. Destroy what's below and what's above will follow. Now, I do believe this was one of the Dreadnoks models from G.I. Joe as well, but I think Bud Budiansky might have wrote both bios. It says, Rumble is your basic street punk. Small, but always acting tough. Quick temper and mean disposition. Follows Megatron's orders eagerly. Transmits immense low-frequency ground waves to create powerful earthquakes. His small size limits his physical strength, but his ability to shatter ground makes him difficult to approach in a fight. And there is the artwork for Ravage and Rumble. And moving over to his technical readout, Rumble's strength is a 2. His intelligence is a 5. His speed is a 2. His rank is a 5. His courage is a 7. His firepower is I know they don't use halves, but it's an 8.5. I'm just gonna say 8 is an 8, which is very impressive. And his skill is a 5. So this is the file card, the BIOS for Rumble and Ravage. With that, you would get 1 robot point that you could use for Transformers mailaways and offers. Over here in this corner, it says proof of authenticity. You can find the black square label on your Transformer. Rub the label, watch the robot face appear. It is evidence that your Transformer robot is a true Transformer. So that's what you got. And right here at the bottom, it says 1984 Hasbro Bradley. I guess that's when they acquired Milton Bradley, Inc., Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Address, number, all rights reserved. Made and printed in Japan. Manufactured by Takara Co. And on the front of the cart is the original price tag from Child World Children's Palace. And he was priced at $586. If I'm getting that in, I got a lot of glare on that. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at the figures themselves. I'm going to start because the bio, they're both at number 19, and the bio starts with Ravage. I guess is alphabetical, so I'm going to start with Ravage. So here is Ravage. This is a rub version. This rub version has taken a beating. Again, most likely introduced in 1985, but it's the same figure from 1984, just without the Decepticon logo and the rub sticker put on. Ravage comes with 2 weapons. There are these 2 chrome rocket launchers that plug into his cassette holes, his rear cassette holes, to weaponize this guy, and he can run around and do battle more effectively with obviously rocket launchers. And other than that, that's all he's equipped with. So I'm going to take a look at Ravage's articulation. And in my opinion, in 1984, not just my opinion, I think it's an actual fact, he is the most articulated figure there is, maybe in all Transformerdom. Anyway, he has a neck articulation right here. Even though it's transformation, it is here. His neck can move up and down. Now, at his shoulders of his Jaguar mode, he has an articulation right here. He has an elbow bend right here, and he has a paw bend right here, or foot, and it follows over to all paws and all sides, giving him multiple points of articulation, being able to pose in more dynamic poses than any other Transformer from 1984. And then his tail articulates in its transformation, but it articulates. It is there regardless of why. The only thing he was missing is a mouth articulation. Speaking of mouth, let's take a look at his head. His gold chrome eye has long since faded off. You can see remnants of it right there. So he has a painted on gold plated eye. You can see the slit for his mouth. He has a bit of a molded in nose. There's a little bit of eye showing up a little bit better. On this side, he has ears. There's his ear. He has some detailing on his neck. We don't know if those are just lines or meant to be some type of fur. You can see the cassette mode side on this side. And let's take a look at his paws. He has a little bit of molding in his paws as well. All of them, the back paws are different from the front. And again, like I said, you can get this guy pouncing, knocking down Autobots or whatever. He was always into something on the episode. He even has some circuitry on this side. It was covered up by the weapon, which is pretty cool. And now you can remove his weapons. Just unplug them, unport them right there at the side. And we can turn them into a cassette by folding the head up, folding the tail up, folding these paws up, and basically we're going to line up that line right there, transform this part, tuck his feet, and here is his cassette side. Now there's a lot of breakage and hollowing, but I still think he's pretty cool. And actually they actually have a sticker for the tape reels inside, which looks great. And right here it says metal position, MC 60 minutes side A or A, and something else right here I can't quite make out. Maybe I can see it when I watch it back. And then he has Japan right here, and then they tried to make the tape sticker on this side. They should have went across the face. They might as well. I guess they want to look good in robot mode, not have that on there, or Jaguar mode. But yeah, I don't think it would have mattered because we still got the opposite side. And this is the opposite side, obviously meant to depict the mechanical Jaguar. And you could take Ravage and put him in the chest of your 1984 Soundwave. And slides right in, fits right in there. And open and close and eject, and have a ton of fun playing with that feature. So I'm going to move Ravage and Soundwave back, and I'm going to focus on Rumble. And yes, this is Rumble. I said it before and I will say it again. This is Rumble, especially because years later, when they came back and made the Masterpiece line, was it like 4 years ago now? And they had a chance to correct a mistake. If it was a mistake, they would have continued to call this, they wouldn't have continued to call this guy Rumble. So when we got the Masterpiece line, and here's the Masterpiece version, they continued to call this guy Rumble. They didn't switch it and make him Frenzy. So this, in my mind's eye, it is Rumble. Always has been and always will be Rumble. So anyway, let's take a look at Rumble. He looks a lot like the box art, which he should. He has some gold chrome on his chest, Decepticon logo right here, some silver on his face. Looks like he's wearing a visor, a well-detailed head, some detailing in his chest, some detailing scope to break up his waist, some stickers on his thighs and shins, and he has die-cast feet. I do believe later on, there was a version of these guys that had plastic feet. I've never had those, don't have them in my collection now, but they're out there. He has some die cast in his joints and in his shoulders. And he has chrome weapons on his back. I guess these are like rocket packs and guns. You can switch them out. You can take one of these off his back and put it on his hand. And now Rumble has a gun. So if you chose to, you can get him. If when he was brand new, you can get him firing that Autobot. But not bad. Not bad at all. I've always liked the look of this guy. He was a pretty cool little guy. So let's take a look at his articulation, which isn't much. His head could go up and down just because of the transformation, and it's spring-loaded. Now his arms can come up, and this is transformation related as well, but he rotates at the shoulder. Rumble has an elbow band, and it is transformation as well, but it is still there. And nothing at the waist coming to his thighs. His thighs can rotate. That's transformation as well. And he has a bend, and this is transformation as well at the knee. But he can do that. You can pose, because he's like a duplicate figure. He has a palette swap. You can actually pose him around and get him to look different on your shelf than the other figure. And he can stand with a little bit of articulation going on. And again, I showed you the weapons can come off his back and his feet. Forgot about his toes. His toes just slide in. And this is transformation as well. But the die-cast toes can slide in case you need to move them back for a separate pose. Something to get that foot down. All right, to get Rumble transformed, I'm going to remove his weapons. You probably could do it with the weapons, but to store them away, you're going to take them off anyway. Take his hands and bring them to the tops of his head like this, and you just take his hands and push down on his head till his head is tucked away on that spring in there. And once you have those positioned, I guess we just turn to the cassette side, rotate these legs, wait, oh, tuck away his feet. Mine's old and stiff, and tuck away his die-cast foot on this side, slides in there. Mine's giving me trouble. And here is his cassette mode. And because of the spring, the arms, when they get older, want to push, the head wants to push the arms all right here, so it kind of doesn't hold in that well. But sometimes you give it a good squeeze, it'll stay a little bit. You can see where it's still broken up. But his stickers are a little bit better for the convincing cassette side. Has a full sticker like I wish Ravage did, going all the way across to create that illusion. He has 60 minutes right here. You can see the sticker for the tape reels. And right here it says metal position. And then that tiny little bit from the last cassette that I couldn't see. And right here stamped in it is Japan 1983. And Takara right there. And this one rub sign is working. My lights have it working already. And the rub sign works pretty well right there. But he actually has both. Has the Decepticon logo and the rub sign right there. And you can take Rumble. You gotta eject Ravage. And you can put Rumble in there. Even though he's all broken up, the way Soundwave chest is designed, it brings the tapes together regardless. And you can put them in his chest and boom. Function. Eject. 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 Alright, now for scaling, I'm going to get these guys to size up and run down. I'm going to do it individually. I'm starting with Ravage. Here is Ravage next to Voltron's Black Lion. Here he is next to his Masterpiece incarnation. Here he is next to Earthrise Ravage. Sucks. Here he is next to Black Panther, because Jaguar is a panther. No? Okay. Sticking with the same joke, here he is next to Panthro. And last but not least, here he is with Master of the Universe Classics Panther. Alright, time for Rumble size up and run down. Kick it off with Generation 1 Skywarp. These guys had beef. Here he is with the Masterpiece version. I'm still not impressed by it. Generation 1 Hound. Constructicons unite. No way! Alright, to push on with this review, I do want to tell you, like in all my reviews, about the voice actor. The voice actor for Rumble and Ravage was Frank Welker. Whichever Rumble, or no matter what color you consider him, Rumble or Frenzy, Frank Welker did all the voices for those guys. And he actually lended a voice to Ravage for one episode where Soundwave did a playback, and it was actually Ravage speaking. And I have a clip of it. Here it is.
The rocket base is 140 kilometers due west of the Autobot camp.
Excellent, Ravage. Excellent.
And now I want to tell you my favorite Rumble moment in the cartoon. I'm based on color. When he was Frenzy and he threw Skywarp across the room when he caught his foot. I think I put a clip in the video already. Alright, as far as my favorite Ravage moment as a kid, everything he pretty much did was badass. He was one of those Decepticons. He was right there with Laserbeak. He never really failed. Anytime he was sent out to do something, he really, he got the job done. So he was consistently good. He never really had an overly spectacular moment in the cartoon or the movie, but he was pretty much solid in every outing he ever had. You know, he kicked the hell out of Bumblebee, but who hasn't? Yeah, he knocked Optimus Prime down a few times. He was pretty solid. So I don't have a really standout Ravage moment from the cartoon like I try to always add in. But I do want to add my childhood story for these figures. I bought these figures like on a weekend, like on a Saturday. I took them to school on a Monday. And Monday, I was having lunch in the cafeteria. I had my toys out on the table in elementary school, and I got up to get another milk. I left my toys with what I thought were 3 of my friends. So I get up to go get a milk, and I come back, and my toys are gone. Rumble and Ravage, they're gone. I had them like 3 days, and then they were gone, and none of my friends knew where my toys were. And the thing is, it was 3 guys, and it was 2 toys. Like, somebody had to alternate toys. Somebody was going without a toy. If they were sharing it, which I thought was weird, but I don't remember those guys' name because I quit speaking to them after that. So I never found Rumble and Ravage again in a store after that as a kid. But went to Kmart one day, right? And you know, I always got a good story for you guys. And I wound up buying a 2-pack of KOs, and I actually have found these guys again as an adult. And I found these 2 guys packaged at Kmart. And after that, this became my Frenzy. And once I got a Frenzy, I started using my Frenzy as a cartoon Rumble. I just had to throw that in there where I actually did bow down to the Blue Rumble. But basically it was a brown KO of Ravage, And for this one, I don't have the weapons for it. I got some weapons, but I don't have his weapons. I put a Decepticon logo on them. And then this red and white knockoff of the Rumble Frenzy Mole. And these guys, for maybe 2-3 more years, were my Rumble and Ravage, or Frenzy and Ravage at that point. So that is my Generation 1 Transformer story for these two figures. And I do wanted to add, I didn't add it in the Diaclone line. Rumble actually came in this color. He obviously came in this color, and he came in like one more color. So this was standard. We actually got this color, but Ravage in the Diaclone toy line, Micro Change line, was actually blue. And this is a reissue of the Diaclone Blue Ravage. This isn't the Dia. That thing goes for like $300-400 bucks with like worn off chrome and all of that. But the eHobby actually reissued this, and I have it right here to show you guys. But the Diaclone version actually came in this blue. Alright, speaking of reissues and versions of these guys, I want to talk about the reissues and then give you some buying tips. These guys have been reissued more times than I can count. Sometimes coming in a set with Soundwave. He has multiple reissues. He has a Japan Takara Encore reissue set, and most recently they were reissued by Walmart just over a little bit of a year ago. Here's the packaging for these figures. Throw them in the background. I also have used them in props in this video loose. This is a reissue right here, and this is a Walmart reissue. So you can find these guys pretty much anywhere. But to give you a buying tip, if you are purchasing or looking to purchase loose vintage versions of these guys, one thing you want to look for is the rub sign, stamping date. If you can, if you're buying off eBay or something like that, you gotta kind of, hopefully you can get to see the stamping and production date right there. Check for the chrome wear. Chrome wear is a telltale sign that the toy is vintage. It used to be a thing that you wouldn't really want, but it lets you know that it is vintage. And if you get a good look at it, the chrome, the gold chrome is never really perfect, and there's always some sticker peeling and lifting, because there are KO versions of these guys out here. And same thing with Ravage. You want to take a good look at them, maybe check for some wear, just the telltale signs that it is vintage. Wear to the paint on this side, and this is a brand new one. There are differences, but there are a lot of similarities. These guys are kind of hard to distinguish now that they've made so many official reissues and knockoff reissues. So it's tough going to get these guys. You got to go with like a proven seller that's giving you a guarantee that they're vintage, most likely. But trying to find these guys pre-rub is really hard. Alright, Transformer family, that will wrap it up for today's episode of George Reviews. I hope I dropped some knowledge on you. I hope you found out something you never knew, and I hope you enjoyed the review. The reviews, where every toy has a story.